But his delight is in the law of the Lord, and in his law doth he meditate day and night. Let me tell you about my great God.
Hey guys, Pastor Tim here. Hope you guys are doing great. Hope you're ready to get your day started off in God's Word. We are on 1 Samuel chapter 13. I gotta keep these days in order, but 1 Samuel chapter 13. If you haven't read it yet, pause the video, jump right back into it as soon as you're done. Read it through a couple times, guys. Read it through a couple times. Jot down the things that stick out to you, circling one main thing, and then tell somebody about it. Today, we're starting to see the cracks or the chinks in Saul's armor. All right, he started out good. He was a humble guy, but now we're starting to see some pride, and now we're going to start to see some impatience as well, which leads to a lack of faith. Remember what we talked about a couple chapters ago. God exalteth the humble, all right, but resisteth the proud. And we're starting to see pride come up in Saul's life. And immediately, just in the overview of the chapter, we kind of see at the beginning where Saul is starting to form his army, and he splits them up into two companies to kind of take care of the Philistine threat. And Jonathan takes his company, I believe about 1,000 men, and he slays a whole garrison of the Philistines. Yet Saul takes it upon himself to have it published throughout the land that look how Saul has slain a garrison of the Philistines. A completely prideful effort just to gain notoriety and to get the other people in Israel. Because remember, it's been 2 years, but this is still very young in Saul's reign, and he's still garnering support. And so it's just to kind of gain more support. Hey, look at what I'm doing. I defeated a garrison of the Philistines, when in actuality it was his son. So we see some of the pride welling up like that. Well, this particular attack against the Philistines kind of galvanizes the rest of the Philistines. So they gather up a large contingent of men, a large army to go and battle and encamp against Israel. And everyone sees this, and they're very fearful. So Saul gathers up his army, and I believe it's in Michmash they gather themselves up. And they're waiting because Saul was told by Samuel, hey, wait 7 days and I will come and offer sacrifice so that God blesses this battle that's about to happen. So Saul's told to wait. All right, the new king, who was growing in pride, is now being told to wait on Samuel. And 7 days go by. Now I don't know if the 7 days have completely expired, or maybe it was towards the end of the seventh day. But the fact of the matter is, it's got close to the end of the time, and Saul still doesn't see Samuel. He hasn't arrived yet. And he's like, you know what, I'm going to take things upon myself and just do the sacrifice myself, which is not, according to the law of God, supposed to be done by someone other than a Levite, other than a priest or prophet, none of which described Saul. Saul was just a king. He was a Benjamite of the smallest tribe. He wasn't supposed to do the sacrifice, yet in his pride, in his arrogance, he thought, you know what, I can do it anyway because I don't want to lose all these people. I don't want them to become fearful, all right, and run away, so I want them to stay in battle. I'll take it upon myself. And of course, how these things work, I don't know if you guys ever experienced something like this where you done something wrong that you know you're not supposed to, and as soon as you're done, your dad walks through the door, your parents get home, the garage door opens, and you realize, oh, I got to clean this up quick. Kind of what happens with Saul here. He gets done, and as soon as he's done, Samuel comes in. Right after he finishes doing what he's not supposed to do. And he's kind of caught like a kid who stole cookies out of the cookie jar with like chocolate fudge still on his cheek and stuff. And Samuel's like, hey, what is this that you've done? What's going on here? And Saul tries to pawn it off on the people. First of all, he tries to pawn it off on Samuel himself. Not a good thing. I don't think it ever worked for me as a kid if I tried to blame my parents for the reason why I did something wrong that I wasn't supposed to do. Like, Dad, it's your fault that I disobeyed you. Yeah, I didn't even attempt that because I knew it wasn't going to work. But that's what Saul tries to do here, much like the first man ever, Adam, when he was confronted with the very first sin. And he blames Samuel, and he starts to blame the people. I don't want to lose the people, or the people would have turned against me. They were becoming fearful, and all of it. Samuel said, you know what? Because you were not able to keep God's commandments. And remember, he talked about this last chapter, and about putting your faith in the King of Kings over the man Saul as king. You say, hey, God will continue to bless if you continue to follow his commandments, both the people and the king. And Saul has failed to do that. And he says, because you have failed to do that, God would have established your kingdom and your family forever. But now he's going to give your kingdom unto a man after his own heart. And this very much doesn't sit well with Saul, but they continue on anyway. And the chapter kind of ends on a cliffhanger. It's seen the Philistines kind of split up in their army, so we don't know the end of this battle just yet, the skirmish with the Philistines. but this definitely isn't a good thing for Saul in the future. And there's one main thing I want us to get out of today's chapter that stood out to me personally, how it was the impatience of Saul and his lack of faith in doing the little things. He wasn't supposed to offer this sacrifice. He was supposed to simply wait on Samuel. And guys, there's going to be many times in our lives when we're required to wait on the Lord. All right? And there's many different examples in the Bible besides Saul. I'm thinking of like Abraham and Sarah. I'm thinking of other people as well who are required to wait on God, but because of their impatience, they take it upon themselves to do something that they're not supposed to do. And that's what Saul does here. And guys, there's going to be moments in your life where you will be required to wait on the Lord. All right? And waiting, is a hard thing for humans to do. All right? But that's what faith is all about. A lot of times living by faith is waiting on God and his leading in your life. And it grows our patience, and patience grows our faith, and it grows our relationship with the Lord. Saul failed in that aspect. He couldn't wait any longer, so he took it upon himself and did something he wasn't supposed to do. And because of his lack of faith and impatience, God took the kingdom away from him and was eventually going to give it unto David himself. We don't know that yet in the timeline of this book. Obviously, God did, and of course we know because we've read the passages many times before ourselves probably. But, patience, it's a virtue. You guys heard that said, but it's also a very key characteristic, key attribute that should describe us as Christians living this life of faith with God. All right, faith is going to require us to be patient many times in following God and his will for our life. And those that become impatient, become arrogant like Saul does in our own pride and tries to take things upon ourselves, it could lead to defeat or shame, much like it did with Saul in this chapter. That's it for today's chapter, guys. We're going to continue on with chapter 14 tomorrow. We're going to get into a little more things, and we're just going to see a steady decline of Saul, who started as a humble man, but his pride's going to continue to grow, and it's not going to end well for him. By the end of 1 Samuel, we're going to see the end of Saul and his arrogance and his pride, and we're going to see the beginning of a new kingdom, a new king, a man after God's own heart, David. But take what you guys learned today, your questions you may have, talk to your accountability partner, tell somebody about your great God today. Stay safe, stay healthy. God bless.